Hey guys, crazy chart. Took two longs on HOLO and two shorts. The longs, I'm just glad I picked the right buys. I was kind of looking for the short even in the pre-market because of how weak the market has been recently. But both structures, both in the pre-market and at market open, were super strong. Um, and I got pretty lucky that both the longs worked. Um, in the pre-market, by the time I came on and opened this chart, the stock was already here. So I already saw the squeeze of the initial pre-market structure, and then they did the classic thing where they just there's zero liquidity move up here. They just walked it down. It's so hard to see this because of how insane the range is on this play. Um, but yeah, quick dumps from high day. We talked about the empty space. Um, we could see. We'll look at the book had clean bids, tons and tons of bids on this dump right here. Tons of empty space. And I was like, well, let me just go long. Uh, because I don't really see any type of liquidity move, and then if it pushes, I'll make some type of read. But it pushed straight up through high day, and I sold a lot of it up here, and then once for a lot of my longs, you'll see it over here too. A lot of times when they start hard knifing the 1 minute 9 and 1 minute 20, I just tend to get out because you never know. In low floats, you're never gonna know what stock is going to go up 200, 300, 500% from your entry, right? Most of the time, you're lucky in low floats to get like a second leg, like especially if you're longing at the top of the range. Because remember, this started from 1.2, and this long here was in the 2.7s. Um, so it's already up a lot. So a lot of times in low floats, like you're just happy to get, you know, high day get broken and you're happy for maybe a second leg. And when that second leg starts to knife, a lot of times that's the play. Like, a lot of times it's better to get out of your position and get ready for the short, right? Um, if you're just going to hold 400% for all your longs in a low float line, you're going to make money on one out of every, 100 plays. Um, so, yeah, market open, insane volume, and we get a high day clear out, right? So in my Discord, information down below is like, okay, there's a bunch of painted lower highs right below $4. I told the guys in the Discord, I'm like, hey, it's best to just kind of wait for market open on this one. Market open comes, um, and it trades 2.5 million shares and does a high day clear out. Now, based on the volume and the type of rigged priced action we're getting, um, I consider high day clearouts to be really, really, really bad shorts on strong high volume stocks, right? I don't really blame people for, given how weak the market has been recently, for, a lot of people in my room took the $4 high day clearout, and I don't blame them. I just thought the volume was crazy. The stock was heavily rigged, and that I just don't. In a lot of situations, I probably miss more high day clear out shorts than most people, but I also am long a lot more high day clear out short traps, which is what this ended up being. So the high day clear out short trap, which we saw a bunch a couple weeks ago, is very simple. It happens especially at market open and especially on super high volume plays where you get a dump, tons of empty space. And during this consolidation, it was bouncing off VWAP here, and I said on my Discord, I was like, the selling, we'll zoom in on my Thinkorswim chart, but the selling is very controlled. It's very, especially in market open, it's very normal to get rigged priced action. We have like very controlled selling, and sometimes you get a dip and rip. Sometimes it just rips, which is what it did in this case. Um, but in low float land, on these like tiny float stocks, you know, between 9 and 9:30, when you get this like, you'll see this sometimes with VWAP. Say this is VWAP, the stock will like cut under VWAP and it'll do stuff like this, and it'll do like stuff like that, right? Where it's faking VWAP resistance, but you have this like choppy, controlled selling where they're building a bunch of market open liquidity to create some type of move, right? And once this again, and there were bids down here, bids, and once I saw it bounce off those bids multiple times, I like at least two bids, like bids get tested twice. But we'll look at some kind of like mechanics of what determines when a stock is likely to push, right? So, um, HoD Clearout short trap, up halted. I regret to say that I sold way too much. I got nothing off in the high fours here, and then I sold like more than half my position below 4.5. And then these were just smaller holds that I sold into. But besides that, um, I thought this could be a potential massive long trap. We had a clean looking flag at the top. The only problem was we had a bunch of lower highs right by 5.5. And I made a whole video on fake half dollar and whole dollar resistance. This was fake whole dollar resistance, the $4 clear out, and this is a painted 5.5 level, so that's always a bullish factor. But I love the painted higher lows on this. I thought they would push above this 525 guy. It would go into the 530s and then they would pull it. That's what I thought was going to happen. But when it pushed to the 530s, I wanted to see if any bids followed it up, and I wanted to see if any new ash showed up. And what actually kind of happened there was on this little push is that a bid followed it up in like the 515s, and there were no new ash showing up, and it stalled for maybe 15, 20 seconds and ripped. So I wasn't very confident in the entry on the book, and I just managed to, I wasn't long, but I managed to avoid, because I was bearish at this point in the structure. I was super bearish because every single time stock squeezes higher and higher, um, it's more likely to fail, right? Especially if you have a clean bull flag getting painted like this. It always surprises me when these work, at the top like this because it's so rare. It's so rare to see this type of continuation. Now, this short was a misfire. This short was there was a big support swipe, and then it pushed into a hidden seller at 7.6. And the reason I think this short was a bad idea was because a lot of times on these crazy, crazy, crazy strong stocks, the best short, which we'll go over this, I thought this was A plus, it just didn't work. Happens usually at least like 45 minutes. I would say at least like 20 minutes after whatever the last high a day was. Um, but a lot of times it happens like 45 minutes, an hour later, hour and a half sometimes, where, midday, it often has to set some type of structure, right? And then make some type of bullish push because midday liquidity, it just takes more time to do your chart paint, to do your initiations. And this was only like maybe 10 minutes past the high a day. And I thought that was really early, but I got baited really hard by this 7.6 hidden seller. And then once it started ripping above this range, I actually just got out right away because they threw up some bids and it started pushing. And I'm just like, I already kind of knew it wasn't, not only was it not doing what I wanted it to do, but it wasn't fitting the time frame of the short, and I just cut it right away. And then this one I thought was A plus. This one I thought was great. You got a controlled walk down, right? A lot of people chasing, got some lower highs, right? And then it paints the higher lows. We started to get an aggressive move back towards high a day, and then you get a perfect book map short where they just shove this straight up with no bid structure. They filled a bunch of ask, which is what we saw. What we've been seeing on backside swipes is they fill a bunch of ask up into the backside level. In this case, it was like 9.2s and 9.5s, and then they pull it. So I thought this was A plus, and a lot of times it is. Um, but I knew that every time you short like a potential long trap like this, you always got to just look at the chart paint. Like, what's the bullish thesis? And the bullish thesis is that this is just another lower high, and they're going to rotate it and squeeze it, right? So I pretty much just had my risk pretty much where my average was in the 920s. Um, there was one ask at 9:30, and I was like, if this even comes close to that, I'm just gonna get out completely. And then I actually stopped trading this. I got out because again, I do not like high day clearouts. I think high day clearouts, if you like, these are all just this. The amount of high day clearout short traps that was on the stock was insane, actually insane. This chart kind of blows my mind. Um, we'll go over you know, we'll go over this really fast. Yeah, so here's the pre-market. Here's that big squeeze. Traded like had this like zero volume soak in a big squeeze, and I was like looking for some type of pattern up here. I was like, oh, market's so weak, maybe it gives one squeeze and it pulls, and they dump it. And initially, I was very discouraged. I'm like, market has been so weak. I wouldn't even be surprised if it just went straight down. But the book was so strong on this. The book was so insanely strong, even in the pre-market, that I was like, I posted it. So you can see it right here. You can already see the, no liquidity move at the top. Um, and they just threw up a bunch of bids to catch this with no ask filling this empty space. This is a perfect long. This is a perfect pre-market long. Um, and I always like these some bids they get tested a second time, right? Because what I've learned is trying to guess the bid that's going to hold is a bad idea. Pretty much what you want in most situations is you want some bid to hold. In this case, it was this one. And a lot of times, the first push has no bids following it up. So you get this bid holds, you get a push with no bids. It knifes back through those no bids, and then this bounce becomes very important, right? Like, what does the bid structure look like? I was a little afraid of this long because I actually started pulling a lot of these bids. There's only this one guy right here, and they started pulling a lot of bids below, and I actually got a little scared. But I loved how it started consolidating right here. Uh, there was bid follow up that is bullish, and so I longed, and then I added a little bit as it started rotating. Um, and then yeah, I mean, look at this. They rotated it and threw up a 25. Oh, you can't see that. They threw up a. Can I move this a little bit? They threw up a 25,000 share bid um, right here to initiate the squeeze, right? So I sold some into the high day break, and then I was like, well, this seems kind of crazy strong. Like, this is bullish. This is bullish. Let me hold on to some more. Sold a bunch on this push and got out. Problem, again, when, like, you could see that once this bidder got broken, a lot of the bids start to thin up. And in low floats, you just never know where the top is going to be. So once the bids thin up and a 1 minute 9 starts getting cracked, I just like to get out. But I did say to my Discord that on this dump, that again, it's the same reason as this. A lot of times when you just get massive 10-15% dumps out of nowhere with no obvious liquidity pattern, a lot of times these are short traps. Um, Especially on an SSR stock like this, where people chase, they chase below here, and then this gets rotated on. But this is so close to the market open that I decided to just, instead of trying to short this here, I just told my room I consider this price action with this reclaim to be really strong, and that market open is coming, and that we should just wait. And then yeah, here's your high day clear out, instant 20% dump, right, in the VWAP, and we could see this at market open, and we could see the bids, right? Here's your 20% dump. Now the order book wasn't as empty as it normally is on these types of plays, but the volume was insane, right? And I really liked how, you know, again, let's look at the bid structure, right? Like, to me, I like you know, this is the first lower, this is like a lower low. So I always like to count the bounces from the lower low, right? So this is the lowest the stock went on this candle at 939. And again, we see the same thing where we get a bounce, but there's no bids on this bounce. So it's very common for these like little Um, this is actually a 20-cent bounce. This is actually like an 8% move. It gets bounced, and then I like to, I consider this the first bid because it's the lowest low, and then I'm looking at how the stock is bouncing off of this level. And yeah, this is VWAP, and it's sometimes very dangerous to long off VWAP support because a lot of retail likes to long off VWAP support. So it's actually a bearish factor if VWAP is looking strong, but I thought the high day clear out and the volume was um, a bullish enough factor to be long bias. And you could actually see them holding this below. This is 3.5 right here. You could see them purposely holding this. And I said this to my room. I'm like, market open is very volatile, right? Moves happen very quickly. So if you get 10, 15 minutes of tight consolidation on a crazy high volume, low float stock, it's very controlled, right? Um, they're keeping it under 3.5 for a reason. And it is when this bounce didn't go through. This is when I started longing it, right? Because now um, we're getting the same support level tested. This is actually like 3 times if you count this bounce here. And we have, uh, a few layers of bids holding this up. So I thought at least it would soak and I would get a rotation above 3.5 into the 3.7s. Um, and I was thinking of selling some, but then I was just holding, and then a double bid came in and just squeezed it straight up, and I was like, I was like, great. And then, yeah, I freaked out on this massive knife, and I sold a lot of my long. Um, and you can see like kind of the order book is like kind of empty on these pushes, which is why the volatility is insane. When you start getting insane like 10% up and down candles everywhere, it's in low floats. Um, it's often because it's very the order book's very thin, and yeah, here's here's that flag I told you about. Here's the higher lows. Bids were following us up, so I wanted to be careful. You could see the 5.5. Go over here. You could see higher lows. You see the flag. And I told my Discord, I was like, I'm waiting for some type of high volume initiation to go through here. This is what we got. And I really wanted 530, so I was hoping it would get, I really, the closer to high day, the better. I was hoping I would get some crazy aggressive candle with no bids straight to like at least like 535, 540. That would have been great. In a pull, and what I saw was this push here. So I was looking very closely at this push, and then I just didn't see an entry and it ripped. So that's why I didn't take that chart. And then, yeah, I mean, if you go here, I mean, there's guys like every time there's a new high day, I'm like usually on these types of plays, I'm waiting. Like for example, this high day was at 10 o'clock. This move was at 10:40. That's when I was looking at it. That's when I was most interested because that's a solid midday structure, 40 plus minutes away from the previous high day, right? I like these candles. I never try to make reads on these candles here, on this push on these candles. And yeah, this was where I got baited. Was right. Again, this was only like 10 minutes after high day, and I saw this big volume soak, and there was a clear hidden seller in the tape. Um, and I just went in. It was kind of too early. Definitely regret it. You could see it's this whole move here. You could see the seller, and that seller actually got taken out, but then it got rejected again. I was like, all right, if this doesn't work, and it starts getting rotated on, and you could see the bids come in. Look at right before the rotation, bidder comes in, follow up bidder, and they start to squeeze. And I just got out right away. Lucky only lost a little bit on it. And then my last trade was, of course, um, by the way, this video I kept it could be like an hour long. Yeah, look at look at all these high day clearouts that just kept getting reclaimed. So many high day clearout short traps. That's why I hate shorting in it. On strong stocks, I don't even look at high day to short. I think it's I just on plays like this, I think it's low odds. But yeah, here is that candle I shorted. Right, we had the 9.2 lower high over here. We had 9 whole dollar. It pushes 0 bids following this up and 0 bids on this push. Besides a little one here, but I saw this and I saw this ask gets filled, this ask, and then it starts to pull back and I took it right away. I just instantly took it. I was like, this is a perfect time frame. 45 minutes after high day. Perfect bid structure, nice asks getting filled, and yeah, I thought it was great. And then they just came in with the bids, and I was looking mostly at this ask. And once it started getting, like, I even told my Discord, I was like, this is like when it was over here, I was like, this is not looking good. Like, this is exactly what it's not supposed to do. And then it got up to 9.3s, and I don't even have to wait for this squeeze. I already know what's I already know what's gonna happen. So I joked to my Discord that I should be hedging long in a second account. I should be longing down here in a second account to hedge my short. Honestly, probably huge brain to be doing stuff like that. But yeah, just hide a cloud short trap, super rigged, just an insane chart. So a chart to remember. This type, especially everything after this, here to here. I I have no basis of how to trade this. I actually just went AFK. Um, and then like from here to like here, and then I came back and I made this video. So, I like it's so confusing to me, and I hate shorting all these high day clear out short trap type candles, and um, I just thought it was a headache, and I stopped trading it. It's pretty much how it worked out, and now it's still. I mean, who knows what this is going to do? It's still going up. So, anyways, that's it for today. Hope you guys stay safe on it. I know the market's been crazy weeks, so I don't even blame anybody for trying to catch shorts on this. Um, but yeah, a lot of bullish, short traps on this. So, all right, guys, you have a good one. See ya.